Okay, we're going to be looking at the elementary mathematics standards in Seventh-day Adventist schools, produced in 2012. You should have picked up a copy of this at the Nashville Convention. If you didn't get it there, it was sent to your schools. And if you still don't have it in your hands, then we ask that you'll just download a copy of it from our online resources. One of the most notable things in this folder is on the inside front cover. You'll see these 8 Common Core state standards for mathematical practice. These are essentially the meat and the strength of this new approach to mathematics. They should be intertwined throughout all of your mathematical domains and your teaching. I won't read them to you now, but it's very important that you get to know these because these are precisely the 8 strands that will help you to train the youth to be thinkers and not mere reflectors of other men's thoughts. They will help our students to learn to delve deeply into math understanding and understanding the concepts rather than simply getting the answers. Then you're going to find the standards, and they are divided into 5 different domains. And those domains are numbers and operations, operations and algebraic thinking, there is measurement, there's geometry, and on the very back cover, data analysis, statistics, and probability, so that you can find each domain separately. The next thing that pops out at you is the many colors represented on the folder. And that's a very quick visual way of finding the grades that you are looking for. The oranges represent grades K through 2, the blues represent grades 3 through 5, and purples are for grades 6 through 8. In this way, no matter which domain you're in, you can quickly find the grades that you are looking for. Just above each colored section, you'll find a white strip. In that white strip, you're going to find the essential question and the big idea that are being taught for those grades in that domain. So let's look at an example. If we go to the number and operations domain, which is here, and if you look at the essential question and the big idea for grades 3 through 5, what we're teaching is the question says, what does numerical reasoning involve and what does it demonstrate about God's world? The big idea that we're trying to communicate to our students is that numerical reasoning with whole numbers and fractions demonstrates dependability and order in God's world. This is going to relate these standards to our worldview as Seventh-day Adventists. So it's very important that you keep those in mind and bring in that spiritual connection as you're teaching. If you examine the columns within the chart, you're going to see that the first column is listing the grade levels. The second column gives a very quick 1 or 2 word synopsis of the content. The middle column here tells the skills or the standards that are being taught. And the last column is very important because it tells you which lessons in the Go Math or in the Big Ideas correlates to that particular standard. That is going to help you in your planning. Okay, so let's look at a sample again. We're going to look at the measurements strand for just a moment. And in that strand, we're going to look at the 5th grade, and we're going to look at the strand about volume, okay? If you read that particular standard, it says that the students will be able to understand concepts of volume measurement in cubic measure, such as centimeters cubed, inches cubed, and feet cubed. And they will be able to apply that to multiplication and addition. Then it has a code 5.MD.3.4.5, and we're going to talk about the codes again in just a minute. But first, we're going to see what lessons would correlate to that. So here we are at our volume standard, and right over here is a list of the lessons that would go with that. They're all in Chapter 11, lessons 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So when I'm planning as a teacher, I can write down my standard, and I can then write down what lessons are going to be addressing that standard. Now, if we look back at the coding for just a moment, the coding is very handy in lesson planning too, because the codes were made so that instead of writing out, my students will be able to, in this long phrase, to give my objective for what I'm teaching, I can simply write, my objective is M.5.M.2. That's going to immediately indicate the particular standard that I am aiming for and the goal for my students for that section. Now, additionally, at the end of each one of the standards, there is another code that's there in parentheses. That code correlates to the Common Core state standards. Some of those are slightly different than ours as the Seventh-day Adventist standards, and that is because our enumeration and things is a little bit different because we altered some of them to fit our worldview and to make them more inclined to teach what we want our students to learn. One more very helpful thing in this chart for your reference is a row at the bottom of each colored section. This row is titled Assessments, and in that row there are several different ideas beyond the pencil and paper test that allow you to evaluate and assess your students' understanding of that particular topic. So the team that prepared this did a really good job for us in helping us to cover all of our bases when we're planning. One more very helpful thing that you might find is that when you're using it, and let's look together at our standard for 5th grade about factors, and we're going to find that in the section on algebraic thinking. Let's see, and here's our section on factors for 5th grade. And if I'm looking for lessons that are going to teach factors, and I look here for what correlates in the Go Math or Big Ideas curriculum, I see that it's empty. There's nothing there. Okay? Please remember that these standards are here and they are the idea that we are teaching. We're not teaching the text. This means that it is important to help our students master the items on the list. So we may have to pull in other supplies off the internet or from our own materials that will help teach our students that standard. I hope that this overview has given you an idea on how you might better use this tool that's been provided to us.